I feel like there hasn't been enough PC builds on the channel lately, so that's changing today. I decided to put together a PC that could do 1080p gaming on maxed out settings and keep the total build cost under $1,000 US. Let's see what I came up with. Hey YouTube, I'm Danny, welcome to Danny's Tech Channel. If you're looking to build something that's a 1080p gamer, this may be the build for you. Now I'm actually gonna do things a little out of order today. I wanna play the build video first, and then I'll go over the parts list and do some benchmarking. So let's see how this thing came together in this short little montage. Now, before I forget, if you're curious about why I didn't use thermal paste, it's because I used a thermal pad. It's just another solution for cooling to put between the substrate and the actual CPU cooler itself. You can use either or. It really doesn't make a whole lot of difference. It just makes it a lot easier for me when I'm doing these builds and I can take it off and just take the parts off without having to clean it all up and everything. Just easier for me. So if you're curious about that and you want to check it out for yourself, you can check the link below and go over to Amazon and pick one up. They're really cheap actually. Now I bet you're curious about all these parts that I use, so let's talk about them. For the CPU, I used AMD's Ryzen 5 5600. It's 6 cores and 12 threads, boosts up to 4.4 gigahertz, and it has 32 megabytes of L3 cache, which makes it great for gaming. Also, the CPU is PCI 4.0 compatible for those blazing fast storage drives and GPUs. For the CPU cooler, I could have used the out-of-box cooler that came with the 5600. However, I wanted to go for something with a little bit more bling and would provide me some cooling headroom if I decided to do any overclocking, because all Ryzen CPUs are capable of overclocking. The CPU cooler that's on it is AMD's Wraith Prism cooler. It's RGB, and you got this when you bought their Ryzen 7 processors back in the day. You can usually pick them up over on eBay for about $30 or so, and they have really good cooling performance. The motherboard I used is MSI's B550i Gaming Edge Max Wi-Fi. It's got mini ITX size, a quality VRM design, and includes front panel USB-C and also a 2.5 gig LAN. That's a lot of stuff for a small motherboard. The RAM was G.Skill's Trident Z RGB. I used two 8 gig sticks of DDR4 running at 3200 megahertz. 3600 speed is the better choice, and you can actually get it for pretty much the same price as the 3200 megahertz RAM kits now, at least in DDR4. But I had 3200 on hand, so that's why I used it. If you use 3600 from my build list below, you'll end up getting a little bit better performance than what I got on my system here. The graphics card used is the MSI RX 6600 Mech by AMD. It's a fantastic 1080p card with 8 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory on a 192-bit memory bus. It has 3 DisplayPort 1.4 connections and 1 HDMI 2.1 connection. One good thing about the graphics card is it only needs one 8-pin power connector, and AMD recommends a 500 watt or greater power supply, so not even really that high of power requirements. For storage, I'm using the Samsung 980 NVMe 1 terabyte model. This has 3,500 megabytes per second sequential read speed and 3,000 megabytes per second sequential write speed. Now, I know the motherboard can use PCI 4.0 drives, and this is a PCI 3.0 drive, but for the extra $30 to get a 980 Pro, I really just wanted to save the money and use something a little bit more budget friendly. But you can always upgrade later because your motherboard supports it, and so does the CPU. Lastly, the case is the Phanteks P200A digital RGB. This is a mini ITX case. It has a glass side panel, which I removed for the video, and it's got 2 front RGB fans for under $70. That's a pretty good deal. Now, I was gonna shoot some videos of gameplay and everything, but I figured I'd try to plug this into my capture system over here and just play right on the system here, and you can see how it performs in some titles. So let me plug this together real quick and I'll get it booted up and you can see how this plays. Here we are, all set up and everything. I've got the game already loaded in and ready to go. I'm playing Apex Legends, by the way. As you can see, I've got Afterburner in the top corner there, and I'm getting 180 FPS. And this is on maxed out settings, by the way. I don't want to leave my teammates hanging on this. I gotta help this guy out. Help this guy out. Settings are 1920 by 1080. I've got everything pretty much enabled. VSync is off. High settings, very high, ultra, that type of stuff. Oh, I need to buy a gun. I know Apex Legends isn't a very demanding game or anything like that, but I mean, it's impressive that this less than $1,000 PC can get almost 200 FPS in this game. If I didn't run max settings, if I ran high or medium or something like that, I could be into the 240 hertz range easily. I haven't played Apex in quite a while, so this is kind of new to me. But look at the temperatures on the GPU and the CPU. Like I don't have any liquid cooling or anything. I know it's not a big power hungry, GPU or anything, but it is a smaller case, so you would expect there to be not very good airflow. It actually has really good airflow. I know what you're thinking. Apex Legends isn't really that demanding of a title. What if we do something a little bit more challenging, like a AAA title? So here we are playing on Cyberpunk 2077. I finally loaded this up. I've never used it before. I've always used the benchmark. This is actually the first time I'm playing the game. So I'm a little lost, Oh, don't know how to drive my car yet and knock things over. But yeah, we're at about 57 FPS average, and the GPU is doing all the workload here. The CPU doesn't really have a whole lot going on. So if you see a little bit of screen tearing or anything, I don't know if that records on the gameplay, but it's because my HDMI cable is only handling 60 hertz, and that's going to my capture card, which is the EVGA XR1, but that's all it can capture, so it is what it is. I can't use G-Sync or FreeSync on this monitor with that capture card on. Actually, I'm curious, let's turn on FSR is a thing on these graphics cards, and actually you can use FSR on any card, so if you have NVIDIA too, you could do it. I could turn it on auto, ultra quality, quality, balance, performance, ultra performance. Let's just do quality preset, apply. So we were getting about 57 FPS average before, 57 to 60. Now look at it, I'm getting 97 FPS average, 89 with FSR to quality mode. I think it looks pretty good. I think it actually looks almost the same. I don't know. I'm not paying attention to like specific graphics or anything. It doesn't look bad though. I don't see any artifacting. And it went from 50 to 100 FPS. That's double our FPS number there. So not too bad. This game can play AAA titles at 100 FPS if you turn on FSR. If you don't turn on FSR, you can not enable FSR and get about 50 to 60 FPS average. This is 1080p maxed out settings, so you could dial back your settings a little bit and get a better frame rate without turning on FSR. But as you can see, in Apex Legends, I got almost 200 FPS average on maxed out settings at 1080p, and here in Cyberpunk 2077, which is one of the most demanding games on the market, I'm getting 100 FPS with FSR turned to quality mode. If I turn it off, it's about 60 FPS. Not too bad if you ask me, for less than $1,000. So there you have it. Here's the build. You saw the benchmarks. It was actually really impressive, more impressive than what I thought it was going to be for under $1,000. Now, the total cost of the build came in just shy of $900 USD. I could have saved a little bit more money here and there with the motherboard, the case, that type of stuff. If you don't go with an ITX case, you could get a better budget in your system, because ATX motherboards, ATX cases, they're a lot more frequent, a lot more common. ITX boards get more expensive as the generation goes on. So now the new B650 boards are out for AMD, and the B550 boards, like the one I used, really aren't being available as much as they used to be. So finding a board like this from the AM4 socket era in ITX is a little bit more complicated. The only things you absolutely have to get the same performance that I got is the 5600 and the RX 6600 from AMD. As long as you get that CPU and that GPU, you can expect the same performance, roughly, give or take a little bit, based on your RAM and everything, but that I got in my system. This CPU and GPU combo is my go-to when it comes to 1080p gaming. I mean, you're not gonna find a better pairing at a better price. And if you use the 3600 RAM that I recommend below, you'll get even better performance, probably about 5 FPS or so. My point of all of this is to show you that you don't need the latest and greatest hardware to get good performance for gaming. You can see this is last generation's hardware, and it still performs amazing at 1080p maxed out settings. Also, real quick before I go, let me know what you thought of the audio in this entire episode. I used my DJI microphone system here. It's a wireless mic system. I just got it and I'm kind of testing it out. So this is like the test video of this system. I'm gonna be using this in CES this year. Oh, by the way, I'm going to CES. Super hyped about it. Thank you to all of you that continuously watch. You're the ones that made me be able to go, because if you don't get the view numbers, you can't attend as a media influencer. So let me know how the audio sounds down below. I'd really love to get your input on this. And if you've got an older build that you're thinking about upgrading your GPU on to something like an RX 6600 so you can play Cyberpunk 2077, I did a video where I compared older CPUs with a newer GPU to see what the performance drop was. And I'll leave it right over here and you can check that one out next. And as I always say, I'm Danny with Danny's Tech Channel, and I'll see you in the next video.